Hey, everybody. Hello, hello. Thanks for stopping by. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Michelle Risser. And I'm waiting for Rachel to join. I see that Rachel's here. There we go. Let's see. Let's make sure that Rachel can get in here. There we go. Okay, we got it.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Well, that wasn't so hard. Everybody out there, if you want to do an Instagram live, you go live first and then have the other person ask to join. That is the easiest way.
Yes,
So,
it works.
yay. Well, welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm excited to be on here and to
Yeah,
chat.
I'm excited too. Well, I'm Michelle Risser. If anybody out there, if we haven't met, and I'm here with Rachel Britton today, and Rachel's a member of the Therapist Educators Academy. She is an amazing CE provider who's getting just a ton of stuff out there. At the end, we'll tell you all the exciting things that she's doing, and but for now, if you're not following either one of us, go ahead and click follow. And what we're going to talk about today is Rachel's program, where she is. Well, why don't I let you tell us about it? Tell us
Sure,
about
yeah.
the program for moms, especially
Yes,
about aligning your schedule with your values. I love that idea, and I think it'd be great if we could share, some tools for people to be able to do that.
yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, so I'm Rachel. I have been on my own journey of trying to figure out how to navigate being a mom and an entrepreneur and a therapist and a sister and a friend and a wife and all those different things for a few years. And it's messy, but I'm coming up with my own solutions and ways to get through it.
good. And I
And
just want to point out real quick,
yeah.
Rachel, that a lot of those roles are, caring, helping
Mhm,
and caring kind of roles. And
they are.
it can especially be tough for moms, parents in general, but
Mhm.
especially moms because they still do the majority of the caregiving. And
Yep.
um, it can be tough to be
Mhm.
in a profession where you give, give, give all day and then to come home and give, give, give all night.
Yes, yes. And that was actually something that and this is probably a tip, but I had to really figure out with my partner because his role is very different. And he is in a place where he's actually by himself all day. He is an entrepreneur himself, but he just, he works at home. He's not around other people. And so the moment I get home, it's like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been talking all day. So that has been something that I've had to navigate in my relationships and with my kids and just all those different
Mm-hmm.
things. So there's a lot that goes into figuring out those dynamics when you are a caregiver in your work profession as well. So
Absolutely. And really, just in general, working parents, it is so hard. That was one of the things I was not prepared for when I became a parent.
no.
And really, it's for if one partner is at home with the kids
Mm-hmm.
and the other partner is working, whoever it is. When you've
Right.
been with kids all day, you're ready for a break. When you've been at work all day, you're ready for a
Yep.
break.
Yep.
Like there isn't, you come straight into the storm of everything that needs to happen at home. Oh my gosh, dinner and homework. And when
Mhm.
your kids get older, it's rides to practices and,
Yep.
it's a lot.
Because either way you're working, whether you're at home with the kids or you're at work with clients or whatever your job is, like they're all jobs. They all
They
take
are.
energy.
They
Yep.
absolutely
Yeah.
are.
Even
And
just.
I always tell
Mhm.
I do perinatal mental health. So I always tell my therapy clients, like, um, I don't want to say that one is harder. They're both hard. Being a working parent is hard. Being a full-time at home parent is really hard. Um, so I definitely don't think one is harder than the other, but they are different. The challenges are different.
Yes. And a lot of different like beliefs and guilts and societal comments
Yeah.
that play in your head when you make the choice to work outside of home and you're not with your children, and then all those comments of like, why aren't you home with them, why aren't you doing this, and you're
Exactly.
like, well, this is my passion. And like, it's not that my kids aren't my passion, but there are different parts of me. And for
Hmm.
me, I had to really figure that out. Like there's a lot about me and a lot of who I am and my identities, and being a parent is one of them, but
Hmm.
I can't lose those other parts of my identity. Otherwise, I lose part of myself, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so that's something that I really had to kind of figure out so that I could align that for myself and
Hmm.
feel better versus feeling kind of like stuck in all these different, I should be doing this or I should be doing that, or this is the balance that I need because everyone else is doing that balance. Like I had to
Hmm.
figure out the balance for myself.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important. Well, I definitely want to talk more about that. But first, let's pause for just a second. I want to
Sure.
say hello to all the beautiful people who are joining us live. Thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Please pop a comment below and just let us know that you stopped by. I see several people. I see Kara.
Hi,
She's also
Kara.
in the Therapist Educators Mastermind. I see some wonderful therapists. Oh, I see my friend Robin, who I haven't seen in ages. Melanie Anderson just popped in. So just beautiful people here with us today. So thanks for stopping by. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, Happy New
Fun.
Year.
It's like a party.
Yes.
Hi, Kara. Okay, so yes, tell us more about how moms, parents, really anyone who's juggling multiple roles like this, how can you create a schedule that's more aligned with your values?
Yeah, so this is something that I've kind of been working on for myself, and I've realized just talking with other people that it's going to look different for everyone. So something that has really helped me is kind of figuring out who I am, my identity, or like how I kind of function in the day-to-day life. And I am kind of one of those people that I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I realize that about myself. I'm a very creative person, and so I have a lot of like different thoughts and things that I want to do. But within that creativity, it really was hard to kind of zone in and focus on one thing at a time. So what really helped me was just creating time blocks in my schedule. That has and kind of across the board, I feel like time blocking has been really helpful for a lot of individuals that I work with. Um, and I have a lot of people that will be like, but it's too structured or I can't stick to it. And the thing about time blocking is that it is structured, but it's also
Mhm.
flexible if you want to look at it that way. And so time blocking, if no one's ever heard of that, it's really just taking a look at your schedule and identifying places that are kind of rocks in your schedule or like high priority. So family time, if like dinner with your family is really important to you, then that has to be a block in your schedule. That is a no compromise zone.
Mhm.
Or every morning, I spend an hour every morning working, and that's kind of like that's a high priority for me. So I have these different blocks in my schedule, and then I also have buffers in my schedule because being creative, I never know how long something is going to take me to actually do.
Mhm.
And even before this, I was like, please give me a 5 minute buffer, Michelle, because I might, who knows what my schedule is going to look like.
Everyone who
Um,
knows me knows that 5 minutes late is on time to me. Um,
Perfect.
I mean, that's just kind of how I roll. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But see,
you were not late at
like,
all. You were right on time.
see, you speak my language because I all my friends are like they factor Rachel time in
Yeah.
because
Well, and
that's just
honestly,
creativity.
it's because of exactly what you're talking about, where I don't allow buffer and I do a lot of different things, and I tend to go from like appointment to appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's going to be 5 minutes. And
Yep.
if someone needs a super duper rigid start time, like all the time, maybe I'm not the best fit. It is something I want to work on.
Yes. Well, and a way to work on that is adding buffer time. You know,
Yeah, there you
that's
go.
part of it.
Exactly.
Because then you don't feel as rushed, you don't feel as anxious about it, you don't feel as overwhelmed, like trying to go from one to the other. And I think a lot of times people are like adding the buffer in, I'm not going to get everything done. But the reality is that when you have a buffer time, you can actually get a lot done because you don't feel as stressed about getting to that next thing. So,
Yeah, and you're not constantly task switching, which really for everyone, but anyone who's neurodivergent, like task switching is your kryptonite. Like it's
Oh,
very,
yeah.
you can't really multitask.
Yep.
There are things you can multitask if you're doing something that's very low cognitive, like you can walk and talk on the phone.
Yep.
But you can't do a therapy session while checking emails and thinking about the notes from the person before. And like those are all high cognitive things,
Right.
and you need that buffer so you can switch gears.
Yep. Yep. There's actually a myth within multitasking. What you're doing is actually your task switching. You're not multitasking, you're
Mm-hmm.
task switching. And so that actually takes more time to go back and forth. I remember when I was in a therapy group, we used to do the example of like if you write 1 to 26 and then A through Z, and then just do it one task at a time, it takes less time to go 1, A, 2, B,
Mm.
3, C, right? So if we stay on one task, it actually helps a lot. So that, like with the time blocking, that's a big piece of it, is that when you create that time, you want to be very diligent about what you're doing in that time. So if you have a time space for checking your emails, you just want to focus on your
Mm-hmm.
emails. If you have a time space for doing, like for me, doing my CEU, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure I'm zoned in on just that. Otherwise, I can be doing like 5 other things. And in my head, I have like 10 CEUs in my head. And I'm like, nope,
Right.
you need to focus on this one right now.
Absolutely. Yes. And everyone
Mhm.
who works with me knows I am always like, let's find just the first thing. Just do one thing. Because
Yep.
you're right. You end up juggling 10 CEUs, chip away at this and this and this, and they never get done. You
Mm-hmm.
know? So, and I
Exactly.
feel like too, a lot of the people that I work with are therapists or other helping professionals who are building other income streams. And you absolutely have to book it in your schedule, and you
Yep.
treat it like a non-negotiable appointment or you won't get it done. Yes, it does take some time, but even a half hour a week consistent is better than nothing.
Right, exactly. Well, and I think a lot of times when we think about time blocking, we think about just work, right? Or like tasks that need to get done. But
Mm-hmm.
within time blocking, we can also look at time with family or quality time or self-care, things
Mm-hmm.
that we can do for ourselves. And we forget that sometimes we need buffer in between those two things. So like for me, I get very hyper focused on things. Like that's part of my neurodivergent aspect.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And yep, and I can have my kids come in and be like, "How long are you going to take?" And I can lose track of time, so I have to set like
Mm-hmm.
timers or whatnot for that. But I know for myself within my time blocking that going straight from creation. So like if I'm doing CEU stuff or creating content for something, I really have a hard time going from that to family time,
Mm-hmm.
because family time, I'm thinking about whatever I was just doing. It's hard for me just to turn it off. So I need some sort of buffer in between that before I'm able to go into family time and fully invest my time in it. So there's just like different things that we have to kind of think about, like what does our transition look like?
Mm-hmm.
How do we transition? Or even just like therapy to home, I need my buffer time of like, if my husband tries to call me, I don't answer the call on the way home. I
Mm-hmm.
need that time to get home so that I can have that break and pause in between.
Absolutely. One of my favorite little tips is if you work in a physical space away from your home, when you
Mm-hmm.
are driving home, that's your buffer time. So,
Yep.
what I do is I cross a river on the way home, but you might cross a freeway or a big intersection. So, when I cross that river, work is behind me. So
Oh,
if
I
I
like
need to think through like a client thing, or I'm thinking about my schedule tomorrow or anything like that, when I physically cross that river, it's done. And
that.
if I
Mm-hmm.
start to think about work when I'm at home, now it has gotten harder with COVID and working from home and stuff, but on the days I am at the office, when I get home, that office is on the other side of the river.
Yes.
I love
Yep.
the idea of like choosing a physical barrier like that. It could be stepping across the threshold of your home office,
Yep.
or like Mr. Rogers, changing his sweater and
Yeah.
his shoes. That was a transition.
Good. Yes. I had people that, or I know people that will get in their car, they'll drive around their block and pull back into their driveway,
See? Yeah, or
just
you could
as
take a
like their.
shower, or,
Mhm.
something to transition. Otherwise, it all becomes a mixed up stew of like work and home and family. And we're talking about values here, and if your
Right.
family is your value, they deserve better than to have the distracted, used up, burned out
Yep.
version of you.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And it's hard, because again, we have all of those thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and the shoulds. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. But, for me, like a big part of what I have learned over time, and actually what has kind of developed the program that I coach on now, is recognizing that it's not just about the strategies, because strategies are one piece of the big picture. The other two pieces are so that's like the foundation work, right? Like these are the skills, the techniques, the strategies, time blocking, driving around, passing the river, like those are the strategies, but we also need heart work
Mm-hmm.
and we need mind work with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're not adding all three of those pillars to our framework, we're not going to find a balance.
Oh,
Like, yeah.
that's so good. I'm very strategy heavy. I'm very like, timers and
Mhm.
calendars and color coding but yes, talk more about that, the mind and the heart.
Yes, yeah. So, part of the strategy and the time blocking, I think a lot of reasons why people get so stuck on that is because it's too structured. And they're like, but I have this or I have that. And because I'm very passion driven, I'm very like heart oriented. I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And I have a lot of different values. And a lot of times these values, they collide, right? I have a very strong work ethic, a strong value of being successful, of being productive, driven. Like that's just who I've always kind of been. I love that. That fills me. But I also have a very strong value of family. Like that has always been something. And I grew up, my mom is an engineer and was like the breadwinner. And my dad was so supportive of that aspect of their dynamics. I always grew up just assuming that that's what life was. And then I realized like, no, there's a societal thing where like, it's not always the woman is the one that is driving the boat, and
That's so
so.
interesting that you had that perspective of,
Mhm.
the mom is the breadwinner
Yep.
and the dad is
Yep.
the primary caregiver. And you're right. That's,
Mhm.
gender roles are changing, but that's still, the statistics show it's still like women doing a huge
Mhm.
percentage of the housework and the childcare.
Yep. Yep. And hopefully my husband's okay with me saying this, but he grew up in a different environment, right? Where his dad was the breadwinner and his mom was
Mm-hmm.
the main caregiver. And part of it was that him and I had very different perspectives when we
Mm-hmm.
got into our marriage. Because I was very like, nope, I want to do this and this. And he was like, and what? This doesn't align up with what I'm used to. So it was kind of a shock to both of our systems and something that we
Yeah.
really had to navigate.
And so important to look at and think about when you are talking about values, to look at, what did I grow up with? What was modeled to me? What are my expectations of societal roles? I mean, roles are huge. Your role
Right.
as a parent, your role as a therapist, role as a
Mhm.
friend, sister, everything. And it's all kind of passed down
Yep.
with what we saw. And like I saw a very hardworking single mom. I was raised by a single mom. I'm an only
Mhm.
child. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. Like what was modeled to me was like work, work, work to
Mm.
try to make it meet,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
it's,
it's so interesting.
yeah.
Yep. But I think that's part of the mind work, right? So like the
Yes.
mind work, and this is why all three of them are really
Mm-hmm.
necessary, right? Because just based on our upbringing, that creates this dialogue in our head. It creates why we have to be product or like production
Yes.
driven, right? Like I know all my reasons why I'm production driven.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to explore those. I had to kind of figure out why was it so important to me? What things were said to me? Like I had a teacher once that told me that I don't finish tasks. And so I think part of that was I started to like be like, okay, I got to finish tasks. I got to
Mm-hmm.
do this. I got to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And,
You
and,
started
and
overcompensating.
yep.
Yeah, and that's
Yep.
one of the things that I'll do too. Somewhere down the road, I don't know, I'm an Aries, which is known for starting but not finishing, but I don't quit things.
Mm-hmm.
I will stick with something until it runs me into the absolute ground, way
Yep.
past the point that it makes sense or serves me.
Yep.
And so that's part of it too, is like, and that could be part of that mind work, maybe a little heart work as well, is when do you let go of things so you can make room for new things?
Yep.
Especially if you have that ethic of more, do, productivity.
Right. Well, and I feel like when you start doing that work, it actually helps the strategies align with it,
Mm-hmm.
because even like within this last year, I've ended things in my life and started new adventures like the CEUs. But part of it was I wouldn't have been able to do the CEUs had I still been focusing on certain aspects of my life. And I
Right.
had to let go of that, like that thought of what that professor had said to me at that one point. I realized like it did stop me from stopping things that weren't um, serving me anymore. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do not want to get into specifics because I know it is very personal, but you've been through like really tough endings that were not planned.
Yep.
And the beauty of that is that it does open you up for new things.
Mm-hmm.
It opens up space in your mind, body, spirit,
Yep.
schedule.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think allowing that to open up and
Hmm.
to release some of those old beliefs or release some of the my own things that I set on myself, it has allowed me to look at what's important. And that goes back to the heart work. Like, what are my values?
Hmm.
And how do I align that with my time blocking? How do I align that with what I focus on in the day? Right.
Yeah.
So for parents, one technique that I have found really helpful is to get your family involved with what you're doing. So this was something I learned when I was really struggling with finding that alignment. I actually sat down with my husband and with my kids. They were really young at the time, but I sat down and I was like, this is why mom's working. Mom wants to be able to go to Great Wolf Lodge, which is like
Hmm.
a water park up here. And that was something that my kids really like to do. I was like, part of us being able to do these bigger things is that mom has to work a little bit here. Like, this is what's helping with that. And so by time blocking, like I kind of got them in with it, or like we work together as a family of when mom does this work, it's so that we can do these things together.
Hmm.
And then when we are together, we spend this time together. And then when we're there, we spend that time together. Right. So part of it was I had to involve my family instead of doing it on my own, which, yeah, was
Yeah.
it's another tip. Don't do it on your
That is
own.
a
You don't have
great
to.
tip. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
tip for any kind of group is to, be transparent and let people know what's going on and what the purpose is. And, not just, I'm going to work. This is how it is.
Right, right. Because that wasn't working. It
Hmm.
really wasn't. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like I think once I added in some of like looking at my values, looking
Hmm.
at like what was important to my husband, what was important to my kids, what was important to my friends, like it wasn't that I had to do everything for everyone, but what I was doing wasn't aligning with what was important to me.
Hmm.
Because family and friends are important to me, and my
Right.
own self is important to me.
Yeah.
But I think I got so heavy on taking care of me that I lost sight of taking care of others, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that pendulum swings. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing too much pouring out for others. I need to take care of me. You swing kind of the
Mm-hmm.
opposite way. And it's like, no, I need a balance of the two.
Yes. Yes. And that's really where the balance comes in, because I think so many people, they'll go, go, go until they get burnt out.
Hmm.
And, what research shows is if you actually put little buffers in self-care,
Hmm.
really zoning in on family time, really zoning in on work time, like finding that balance, it actually doesn't burn you out as much because
Yeah.
you're taking care of you in different ways.
I love that. I also want to point out something I've been noticing is, through different phases of your life, if you're a parent, your kids go through
Oh,
different phases of needing different things. And, but also just with my mind and body as I get older, it's very difficult to sit in a chair for hours and hours like I used to. And then with my mind, I have found, I am 51 and I'm dealing with that middle age, like menopausal brain fog thing. And
mhm.
like I have figured out that my brain works best from 6 a.m. until about 8 a.m. I call that my brain time.
Yep.
When I can get up in the morning, get my coffee, anything that's like a tough cognitive task, do that
Mm-hmm.
first thing in the morning because by as the day goes on, my brain kind of gets tired. And by 3 in the afternoon, I am done.
Oh,
Like,
yep.
so I'm not going to schedule, um, go through my accounting
No.
or my bookkeeping at 4 p.m.
Mhm.
because it's not going to work.
Yep. Well, and
So you
that's,
got to
I mean,
work with
that's so
your
right.
literal mind.
Mhm. Exactly. And that's something that I do go through, like in the program of how to, I call them your golden hours. Like, what are your golden hours? What are times that like you really shine? So for me, I'm awesome at night. I am a night owl.
Mm,
I am not as put together in the morning.
mm-hmm.
Like I do get up in the morning, but I do very mundane
Okay.
tasks. Like those are more of my checking that my emails. That's more of
Yeah.
like posting things that I don't have to do a lot of that because my brain doesn't work, but it's an hour that I get where my kids aren't awake. So
Right.
I work then. But yeah, I think that a big part of it is trying to figure out when are you at your prime
Mm-hmm.
and to really like let go of it has to look a certain way, right? So like even for myself, as a therapist, I work with a lot of therapists where they'll be like, oh, I just need the 4 days a week. And then when they really started, because they wanted Friday off. And then when they really started to get through it, they're like, I can't go hard for 4 days. Like
Mm-hmm.
I actually need to space it out. And so they started to work Monday through Friday, but just change their hours and
Mm-hmm.
they're so much happier. Or I have
Yep.
someone that they switched it to mornings, like getting up early in the morning and having clients that love being up in the morning too, and that worked really well for them. So you really do have to kind of figure out like when are you
Yes.
best.
And this is something I've had to learn for myself. I want to give everyone out there permission to keep that flexible. I change my schedule quarterly because my needs are different. My kids' needs are different. My family needs are different. My other obligations are different. So, and it's become really a non-issue with my therapy clients just to say, like, here's my schedule right now.
Mm-hmm.
What works for you?
Yep.
Um, and like not having to be so rigid with it. Once I set my schedule, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 3, and it's that forever. And no,
Yep. Yep.
it can change. Well, if you're in private practice, that is. That's the
Yes.
beauty of
Yeah.
private practice. You might have some constraints if work for an agency. But what I have done now, I'm excited to try this out. First quarter of 2025, I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
trying a 2 week cycle instead of a 1 week
Oh,
cycle.
oh,
So
sure.
what I mean by that is I have week 1 and week 2. Week 1, I see 3. It's more appointment heavy. I have 3 therapy days. I have a lot of consultation slots open. Week 2, I just do 2 short therapy days, one morning and one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of space for like creativity, creating content, thinking,
Mm-hmm.
planning, strategizing. I call it my CEO time, looking at my business.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try that out for a while. I'm excited to
Perfect.
try it.
Yeah. Well, and I love that flexibility because, and like, I also like that you acknowledge, like, some people don't have that flexibility in
Right.
their schedule based on their job, right? Like, you can't, like, that person is going to pick what times you come
My
in.
schedule
And,
is wild.
right,
Any boss out there would be like, unless you're
right.
lucky enough to have a boss who's like, you do you, just get your work done,
Yep. But it, to get to that place, I think, is definitely a blessing to be able to be in a place where you can have that flexibility. And it's something that I know for
Yeah.
myself, I have had to work really hard at to get to a place where I can create my schedule as well.
If you have
But
that
yeah,
boss, send them a fruit basket.
yes, definitely. But yeah,
It'll be
I
fine.
think that has to do with the seasons, right? And the only way to really balance is never going to look the same
Mm-hmm.
every day, right? And it's going to look different weekly. It's going to look different
Mm-hmm.
monthly. It's going to look different yearly. And it's kind of figuring out what that balance is for you. And I think that's a really important part because, my schedule now looks different than it did a couple months ago. Or a couple months ago, but it looks very different than a year
Oh
ago,
yeah.
right? I realized that I needed certain times blocked off in order to get my paperwork done. I realized 11 to 1 was my prime time. That's when I did the best with my paperwork. So
Mm-hmm.
I blocked that time off.
Love it.
And, and then I realized that I never stay home with my kids when they have days off. So this year I just made that a priority of now I'm going to take those days off so I can be with them, right? So there's
Yeah.
different things where it's like you do have to kind of figure out what that balance is. Otherwise you get burnt out. If you try to put yourself in a cookie cutter of
Mm-hmm.
what this is what it's supposed to look at, and that's not who you are, it's not your authentic self, you're going to get burnt out. That's just the reality. And
Yeah.
that's where the mind work and the heart work come in to building your structure in your day, because you have to align all those things.
Absolutely. And you know what? So many of those things are not in your control. Like right now,
Right.
I'm at a fairly even keel point in my life, knock on
Mhm.
wood. But
Knock on all the
last
wood you can.
year, oh, last year was
Mhm.
chaos
Yep.
because like my grandmother passed away. I moved her from
Mhm.
Florida to Ohio to be closer, and I was her caregiver. And,
Yeah.
you know, it turned my life upside down.
Right.
And like I had no choice but to change my schedule. Now I'm actually having fun figuring out like how can I optimize.
Hmm.
But things are going to happen in life that make the decisions for you, and you just have
Right.
to go along for the
Yep.
ride.
And that's where that mind work comes in, right? Like it's really building that grit and understanding. Have you ever heard the buffalo story? This is
No.
like one of my favorite. Oh my
Okay,
gosh, I
tell
love
tell
this
us.
concept. So buffaloes, when a storm comes, buffaloes will run into the storm,
Mm,
and they just like conquer the storm head on. And the reason for that is because when a storm is coming, they know that if they push through the storm and charge into it, they'll get out of the storm faster. They'll endure all the pain and, like they go through that, but they'll get out. Whereas cows, they will actually run away from the storm. And so when they run away, the storm still hits them. It doesn't leave. Like storms come, we can't stop them from happening. But they stay in it longer because they're trying to avoid the inevitable of what it is. And that's really what the mindset is like you can't always avoid life happening, right? And it's learning how to navigate
mm.
and continue your journey while life is happening. Yeah. I
Oh my gosh,
love that
yes.
story.
I love that. It reminds
Mhm.
me of a Mythbusters episode where they tested the idea that if you run through rain, you get less wet.
Oh, did
Because
it
you
work?
know, people will just like, stick your purse over your head and run to your car. And
Right.
what they found was like the running causes the rain to have a certain trajectory that you get more wet.
Oh, hmm, but you get out of it faster.
You get out of it faster, but you get more wet. So that's
Hmm.
that's that's like the buffalo. Like you're getting out of it faster. You're still soaked. You're getting the same amount of soak.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. I feel like a cow, if a cow's going, like you're going to be in it longer, so they'll get just as soaked, plus they take longer to get out of it. So either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And another thing too that I've been seeing a lot of with therapists in particular, like therapy's a tough career right now.
It is.
Things with insurance are tough. Insurance companies are, admitting to like denials and delays, and like there's a lot of really tough stuff going on that's making it hard to be a therapist. And one of the things that people are talking about a lot is like needing that flexibility and feeling guilty if your kids are off and you need to take the day off. And I would just encourage everybody out there, if you're a therapist or any kind of helping professional, if you are in a season that requires a lot of flexibility, you have a sick relative, you have a chronic illness, you have kids at whatever stage, just be upfront with your clients about that. And like, and that's pretty much what I do. My clients know that I'm a little messy and I have to cancel sometimes, and I may be 5 minutes late, but I care deeply about my clients and I'm there for them during their time.
Yeah.
Um, if somebody needs like a super rigid type of therapist who never cancels, who, you have a set weekly slot, you never cancel, that's not me. And I'm not going to be a good fit. So it's better, I think, to be just own where you are and be really upfront about it.
Yeah. Well, and we work with individuals all day trying to teach them these things, right? How to
Mm-hmm.
be flexible, how to understand that their seasons are going to look different. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for us to be superhumans where we don't have life as well, it actually represents something that's not realistic. And if we really think about it, like our goal is to model what it looks like to be healthy,
Mm-hmm.
as healthy as we can be as individuals ourselves. And if we're not modeling what that looks like to have boundaries, if we're not modeling what that looks like to say, I have to be flexible with my schedule, then we're not, we're not we're showing them we're not being congruent with what we're telling them, and I
Yeah.
think clients really see that and they feel that. And like you said, like I have clients that when I've had seasons change in my life, it doesn't fit with their life, it doesn't fit with their
Mm-hmm.
schedule, and it is hard, but that's also the reality, is that we have seasons, we have people come and go in our
We
life,
do.
and part of it is having to learn that reality of it too.
We
I
do.
can't be around for everyone at every time. So
I know. Yeah, true. Sometimes that's just not a good fit anymore, and that can include schedule.
yep. And
And
it's
then
not
there's
because
attachment
one
work.
person is bad.
Yeah.
Right,
That
right.
breaks of
Yes. And it's that
attachment wounds and
exactly.
trauma. And,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
one of the things that I've done, like I've had to really, with my grandmother, and then, back during COVID, I had breast cancer and I went through treatment. And one of the things I did last year is, talk about being aligned with values. A lot of people disagree with me on this, but I pretty much completely did away with my cancellation fee.
Mm-hmm.
You be flexible, I'll be flexible. Life comes up. The only thing I ask is please let me know. Even if it's you're leaving to drive here and your kid is sick, please let me know.
Yep.
Because if I'm sitting here and it's a no-show, I will charge.
Yep.
But as long as you tell me, I'm going to be flexible.
Yep.
And that's part of the benefit of having more than one income stream too, is if a therapy client cancels, I can pivot and I can work on my consulting business. That's not the only way I make money. And for me, that's key, having multiple ways to make money.
Yep. Yep. Nope. I actually,
Yeah, because
I understand. I think,
button
yeah.
chair only does not work for my life anymore. I can't sit my butt in the chair long enough to meet my income goals as a therapist alone.
Yeah. And, I think it comes down to like the conversations you have with your clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
When there's that mutual respect of, like I have one free pass, and sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
turns into two free passes, depending on what's going on in their world. Right. But like, I share with them, like, I'm going to have times where I have to take off. Like I have
Yeah.
kids. This is the reality of what it is. And if we have, I'll have a conversation with them. But if it's a repetitive thing, then I start setting these boundaries of this is why I do need to
Yeah.
follow through with it. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, I think it all comes down to like what boundaries are, and respecting each other's
Mm-hmm.
boundaries and understanding that. But there's going to be different seasons, and
For sure.
when
Yeah.
you,
And that
yeah,
just happens to be the season I'm in. I'm not suggesting at all that everybody waive their cancellation fee, because I had one for many, many years. I still
and
have
every
one.
situation is different,
Yeah.
like depending on where you are or what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. You have to do with what works for best for you.
Exactly. And this is what works best for me now, is just to say we're all human, we're all messy, we all are doing the best we can. And I find that people really don't take advantage of that. I find that for the vast majority of the time, my clients show up. And if they do need to cancel, they let me know ASAP. And I do the same if I need to reschedule. I let them know right away.
Yep. And
So,
oftentimes the cancellation is something else, right?
mm-hmm.
And so like, when those do happen, it actually provides us some information, and we're like, okay,
That's
so what's
right.
really going on? Why is this happening? How do we need to
That's
adjust and
a
adapt?
really
So,
good point.
mhm,
That's a great, and it's also seasons of where you are
right.
in your practice. Like I have long-term maintenance clients,
Mhm,
and then I do short-term EMDR intensive with people who have another therapist. So I don't take any new clients for ongoing hourly therapy. So that's not a thing. So that's probably why this has worked, to do this the way
yep.
that I have. When I had like new hourly therapy clients coming in all the time, I saw more of like, maybe they're not quite ready, or maybe, having to deal with it. But now, like, I don't really deal with that because I do short term, or I have my maintenance people
Yep.
who are
Yep.
established.
Yeah.
So if
It
you're out there
changes.
doing like a whole bunch of new hourly therapy clients, don't listen to me. I'm in a different place. I've been doing this 20 years.
Yes.
Um,
I'm in a different place too. I've been doing it over 15, and I do
yeah.
intensives as well. But and I have flexibility. Like you said, if one of my clients do cancel, I jump into a different thing, a different task that I'm working
Same.
on.
I
So
jump
there's,
into different
yep,
tasks. I have enough breathing room in my schedule that I can reschedule them pretty easily, maybe by the following week. So yeah.
yep. Well, I think and you and I could probably talk all day, because like this is a fun conversation, but it ultimately comes down to like when you find that balance, right? When you find what works for you, you're able to do other
Mm-hmm.
things. And I think that's what was hard for me. Like when I've always been someone that has had my hand in something else, because that's just how my brain works. But I find that like if I'm too, if there's not that, if I don't take care of myself, if I don't prioritize certain things, if I don't time block, I can't do all those things. It's
Mm-hmm.
just too all
Yeah.
over, right? And so part of finding that has actually given me more time, because I prioritize what's important to me. I release what's not needed
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Like it allows me to do certain things. And I put out a question maybe it was 2 weeks ago or last week, of like, what would you do with an extra hour of time in your day? And there were a lot of different things. And the reality is we can create time in our day. It's just, what are we doing in those other hours?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we're doing things that don't serve us, that aren't really helping us
Uh,
out.
that hits. And then it goes the other way too. Like for me, if I start feeling too crunched,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing is like, well, I'm not going to the gym anymore.
Right.
I'm cutting it because I don't like exercise, but I need to do it.
Yep.
So I'll
Mm-hmm.
cut like my self-care things
Yep.
first because
Yep.
that's the easiest thing to do, but it's the last thing I need to be doing.
Right. Right. Yes. Well, and like I do want to acknowledge that I'm speaking from a place where I've, like I do have a partner. I do
Mm-hmm.
have steady income. Like I have created something that has
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to have this time and space. And I do know there are individuals that like your mom, having to work two jobs
Right.
to get ends meet. And, there are situations where it's not just like, yes, it's not always just easy, but I
Yeah.
think when you really make it a priority and when you start looking at your day-to-day life,
Mm-hmm.
you can change things. You have that ability to
Can.
change and adapt. It's just if you want to.
And I,
No, it's
yeah, and
not if you
I
want
hear
to.
what
It's if
you're
you're
saying.
going
Hmm.
to.
What was the
I,
last thing you said?
I said it. Actually, a lot of people want to. It's
Yeah.
like if you're going to take action to do it.
Well, I am really big on my therapy and my consulting.
Mhm.
I do not like the word excuses. I don't think there's such a thing as an excuse. I think that in general, people don't want to just avoid and do nothing and get out of stuff. I feel like there's always a real barrier.
Yep.
So let's find out what that real barrier is. If you are a single mom with two jobs, like, no, you're not going to find time to go to the gym. But like, say for instance, like if movement is important to you, can you put on a video and dance in the living room with your kids?
Exactly.
Like, there's always some sort of real barrier that you can work towards overcoming. And no, I'm not saying it's easy,
No.
but like take CEUs, for instance, like, I coach people to try to block out 2 hours a week. I know it's a lot, but if you can't
Mm-hmm.
do 2 hours, do 30 minutes minimum. Get up early if you need
Mm-hmm.
to. Get up on a Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Find if you have no family, no support, can you childcare swap? Can you do latchkey and get an hour? Like there is a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sometimes just a season
Right.
too. Like I like to remind people of that, right? Like this might be a season that you're dancing with your kids to get your movement in. And then once they're in school, you have an
Right.
opportunity to go to the gym for 30 minutes or whatever, like
Yeah.
how do you adjust and adapt and do that mind work to get through those barriers? Because I think those barriers are a big part of the mind work is like, how do we not see things as this is the only way to do it?
Yeah. Absolutely. And to bring it back to values, we're
Mm-hmm.
using the example of exercise, but that would be a case of a values conflict. Your
Mm-hmm.
kids are hugely important, but so is your health.
Yep.
And those cases where it's like, I can't find 30 minutes to exercise, that's a value conflict. And then another one could be like, one of my values is flexibility in my schedule. So I want to start teaching CEUs and building other income streams, but my kids are also a value. So,
Yep.
and you run
Yep.
into this all the time.
Especially at the beginning, right? Because anytime you're trying to make a change, it's going to add
Mm-hmm.
extra, right? So to create flexibility in your life, you're actually going to be busier before you get flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You have to weather that storm. You have to learn how to work through that in order to get to that place.
Mm-hmm. And it takes longer than you think. I hate to tell everybody,
How
but
much longer?
it takes a few years to like, get
It
all of
does.
your income streams rolling. To part of it is getting yourself out there and getting known for what you do, and like it's a long game, but the 4 years is going to go by one way or another.
It does.
2, 3, 4 years, however long it takes. Really, I find that anytime you're starting a new venture, the first year is really just building
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and investing in it. The second year, you might maybe break even. You start to see some return, and then years 3 and 4 is when it can really take off and grow. So, if you're
Yep.
starting something new out there, stick with it. You're gonna 4 years is going to come one way or another. Would you rather be an established CE provider with multiple income streams and well known as an expert?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you rather still be grinding away saying, like, I can't sit in this chair for 8 hours?
That's so funny. I just posted something today that said, "Your easy now is hard later, or your hard now is easy later."
Yes. See? Well,
Mm-hmm.
it was such a huge lesson to me. It seems ridiculous now because I realize how young this was. But I went back to grad school. I think I was close to 30 when I went to grad school.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be 32 by the time and somebody said to me, are you going to be 32 either way? Well, would you rather have a degree? I was like, oh,
Oh my gosh, I love that.
you know, time's going to
Mm-hmm.
pass either way. Would you rather have the life that you want? Start working towards it now.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And that's that grit mentality of like, no matter what comes at you, how do you continue to move forward without losing yourself? Because I think losing yourself is the
Mm-hmm.
thing that makes it harder to keep moving forward.
Sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, to practice what we preach and
Yeah.
leave a little bit of a buffer for
Yes.
everybody
Yes.
who might
I
have an
do have a
appointment coming
plan.
up at the hour, we'll wrap up. But first, Rachel, tell us, where we can find you, how we can work with you, what you're working on. What do you want to share?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously you see me here on Instagram, but I
Yep.
do
Click
have.
follow.
Yes, click follow, please. My website is www.breaking-limitations.com.
Okay.
I do have courses on there. I have some how to master change and success, which would be really great for if you're trying to build some goals and some tools. I do have a course on how to navigate negative feedback. Which is something I've had to really learn how to do because that can be a huge barrier to moving forward. But I have a coaching course coming up on January 6th. It launches the 1st with some of my videos, but on the 6th, it will be group coaching for any mompreneurs. So pretty much any working mom that is trying to navigate how to have their work life and their home life and a personal self-care life, because that's
Okay.
important too. But I'll be going through the mind work, the heart work, and the foundation work so that you can blend all of those together versus having to just do one then the other. So that starts on the 6th, and you can check that out in my course area. Feel free to send me any questions that you have. And I can put it below here too in the comments of how to navigate that. There is a free worksheet on there as well on the page that has the time blocking, how to do that, and then also how to align your values with the time blocking.
Perfect. Do you have a link in your bio?
It is in my bio,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So that's
That
the
will bring you to it.
easiest way on
Yeah.
Instagram. Feel free to put anything in the chat. But the
Mm-hmm.
easiest thing is to just go to Rachel's bio, click, grab that free tool to help with your schedule,
Mm-hmm.
check out those offers. And you're also
Yes.
doing some exciting things with CEUs as well. You're now a provider for Minnesota as well as one other thing, right?
Um,
NASW?
Emdria.
Oh,
Emdria.
Emdria. That's right. You got your
Yes,
Emdria.
yes, yes.
So exciting.
So Minnesota, and then I'll be working on some of the other ones here too, but I do have a course coming out on January 17th for EMDR and dissociation and how to navigate highly dissociative clients in your session. And then I have another one for body positivity and how to navigate like how to have your client really speak to what's important to them versus getting focused on it has to be this way or you need to respect your body in this way, like learning how to approach that from a different perspective.
Oh, I love that.
And then
there's so much noise in that space.
So much. Yes. Oh. And then I have a couple of other ones up my sleeve that I'm excited to launch here. Yay. I got to get through those first, but.
All right. Well, how exciting. Okay. So everybody make sure that you follow Rachel, check out her link in bio. And if you are a therapist or a helping professional and you want to become a CE provider, I would love to help you. So click on the link in my bio to grab my free CEU Course Planning Checklist. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much to everybody that stopped by.
Yeah. Michelle does amazing with CEU helping. So this is like 100% would recommend her to just launch any aspect of CEUs.
I truly, truly love supporting therapists and helping, make this a reality because a lot of people just get tripped up on the paperwork. And, it is a lot of paperwork and some of it's confusing, but you know what? I'm good at paperwork. I nerd out on studying this stuff. So I'm happy to help.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. Thanks so much for being here. This was so much fun. Thank
It
you,
was.
Rachel.
Yes, absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.